Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Becoming Relentless. I am your host, Eleanor McCabe. I'm an IFBB Bikini Pro and an online health and fitness coach. And today, we are going to talk about why you are not lazy, despite what everyone on the internet wants to say. So obviously, with the new year, I think that there have been a lot of different messaging in place, like especially around it's the year, we're leaving the year of the snake, we're going into the year of the horse. Like, this is going to be the time to go, 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 and push forward and advance and change and grow and adapt. And don't get me wrong, I eat that up. I love that. But I think a lot of the messaging can also insinuate that, like, if you are not hitting the ground running and if you're not going all in, that somehow you're lazy. And so I just want to start this episode by saying something that might feel like surprisingly emotional or different to hear. You are not lazy, and you're probably not unmotivated either. In fact, if you're listening to this podcast, there is a really good chance that you are both highly motivated, you have a growth mindset, you care deeply about doing things well, you think about your health, your routines, your goals, you want to show up consistently. So you want things to feel easier than they do now. And I just want to challenge you that if you've been telling yourself that you're lazy, that you're scattered, inconsistent, or just bad at follow through, I want you to pause for a moment. Because for a lot of women, especially, like, motivation is not the issue. You are not lazy. You are probably overstimulated. And until you are able to recognize and name that clearly, you're going to have to keep trying to solve the wrong problem. So I don't think motivation is the issue anymore. For years, I feel like motivation has been like the go-to scapegoat for when you're inconsistent. Like, if you weren't doing the thing, then the assumption was simple. You just don't want it badly enough. You weren't disciplined enough. Maybe you need a stronger why. But this is what I've seen time and time again with my athletes. Women come to me and they want the results. They want the habits. They want the routines. They want to feel better. They just feel incredibly overwhelmed. They're mentally crowded. They're pulled in too many different directions. They're exhausted before they even get a chance to start. None of that is a motivation issue. It's a nervous system issue. When your brain is constantly having to process information, make decisions, have expectations, all of the noise from the external, it doesn't register that as productive. It registers it as a threat. And when your nervous system is overloaded, the follow through becomes much more difficult. It's not because you're lazy, it's because your system is trying to conserve its energy. So instead of asking, like, why can't I just do that? We need to ask, how much am I asking my brain to hold at once? And I actually was challenging myself with this earlier this week because I've had some time off from work. So I've just been working in my coaching business and taking a lot of time to just rest and reflect. And I realized that on days when I don't have things scheduled, my brain would still be constantly cluttered. Like, I would say, okay, I need to unload the dishwasher, do this laundry, put away the clothes, vacuum the house, do some meal prep. Like, there were just so many things that were constantly cluttering my mind that by the end of the day, even if I had accomplished everything that I had on my to-do list, it still didn't feel like I had done anything particularly productive. And on top of that, I feel like the current environment that we live in, like, we're constantly taking in information. It causes analysis paralysis. We live in an environment that is rewarding constant consumption. There's podcasts, Instagram posts, reels, TikToks, newsletters, threads, opinions, X, Facebook, whatever the case. And even when this information is helpful, it's still information that's being input to our brains and having to be processed. Your brain doesn't have the ability to differentiate between useful input and useful, blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, words. Your brain does not differentiate between useful information and useless information, especially when it comes to the load. It just knows that it's constantly having to process a lot. And so every new idea can introduce a new decision point. So Should I try this? Do I need to buy that? Do I need this supplement? Ooh, they're having a sale. Should I buy those leggings? Is what they're doing better than what I'm doing? Am I doing it wrong? Should I change something? This, that, the other. All of those micro thoughts and decisions and questions, they add up, they stack. And eventually, instead of getting any clarity, you just get paralysis. You don't feel inspired, you feel frozen, and then you end up blaming yourself for not acting. But in reality, your nervous system is being overwhelmed by too many open loops. There's too many options, rules, too many opinions. It's one of the most exhausting things for our brains is choice. It's not effort. It's not how much we're trying. It's making choices. So if we have too many options, that can create mental fatigue. If we have too many rules, that can create anxiety. If you have too many opinions, that can create self-doubt. And this literally shows up everywhere. What should I eat? How should I train? Is this the best approach? Should I take PEDs? What if there's a better plan? Is there a better coach? And because there is always another method, another framework, another optimal wellness strategy or whatever, the brain never actually gets to relax and settle. So instead of committing to something, you just hover in the in-between. Instead of taking messy action and executing, you just research and research and research. Instead of repeating a boring, stable habit and actually getting data from repeating that, you just restart with new things all the time. And that is not like a character flaw. That's not a judgment of you. That is cognitive overload. And the hidden cost of that is that you're never going to build momentum. You're never going to make progress. You're going to feel like you're constantly spinning your wheels because momentum requires repetition and repetition requires simplicity. That's why coaching is such a benefit because you hire your coach, they give you the plan. The simplicity is within following the plan. And if you follow the plan consistently enough, you start to see results. You start to learn more about your body. Your coach starts to make changes, not you. You don't have to make decisions. You don't have to make choices. You just follow along with what the coach is doing. You follow along with the plan. And that is what gets you results. I think a lot of us have also been taught or told that we just need to try harder. That it's like, we just need more motivation. You just need to try harder. And I know for me, that was like very much the messaging for most of my 20s. And if you guys have been here long enough and you guys have been here since the start of the podcast, then you know the environment that I was in was constantly telling me that if I wasn't doing enough or if I wasn't getting the results, it's because I wasn't trying hard enough. And I think that a lot of well-intentioned people make things worse. When things feel hard, they add in more. They put in more effort. So they try to put more rules in place, more structure, more pressure, more of the like, oh, I need to get it together. I need to get my life together. But when your system is already completely overloaded, adding more is not going to create clarity. It's actually going to create more resistance within you because trying harder increases that tension and it reduces your capacity to actually hold onto anything. That reduced capacity is what leads to inconsistency, and then inconsistency leads to guilt and shame. And then the cycle just repeats itself. So you don't need more intensity. You just need less external noise and less inputs. A good example of this in my own life is like previously I was told that I needed to post every single day. I needed to be in the DMs every single day, that I needed to be doing more. But I felt like the more that I did, the less genuine and authentic I felt. I started to feel more like, hey, I'm not doing this for the love of the sport. I'm not doing this for the love of coaching. I'm doing it for somebody else. I'm doing it because somebody else is telling me that I need to do these things to try harder, to get the result that they wanted versus what I wanted. So I think the biggest piece of advice that I could give anyone who might be struggling with this is you get relief from subtracting, not adding. So this is where everything can shift. The real relief doesn't come from finding the perfect system. It comes from removing what is unnecessary. So if you have fewer inputs, if you have fewer rules, fewer decisions, then you can simplify and start to actually feel more spacious, more calm, more relief. Um, and I won't name names, but I recently even had a conversation yesterday with a friend where she's quitting a job that has been mentally draining. And she said the moment that she put in her notice, she felt this sense of relief. She felt this sense of expansion. Like she's able to be more creative and focus in on what she actually wants to be doing versus splitting her time and energy between this job that was draining her and then her coaching. When you're finally able to simplify, you can feel that calm, you can feel that space. And it's not because you've solved all of the problems, but it's because your brain finally has the room to breathe. If you can subtract things from your life, it creates the capacity for you to actually start to solve the problems that are right in front of you that actually need solving. I think we have to remember capacity is what allows your consistency to start to emerge more naturally. So again, instead of forcing, you're able to flow and relax into what you need to be getting done. Um, Another thing that I recently have learned, and it's so weird to talk about still because I feel like I'm still trying to teach myself how to embody it, but it's the idea of minimum effective effort. So, this is a really powerful reframe, especially if you feel like you're overstimulated. You don't need maximum effort in everything. You need the minimum effective effort. So, what is the smallest amount of action that you could take that still moves you forward? And it's not what looks impressive. It's not what feels intense. It's not what you think you should be doing, but what is actually sustainable given your current workload. The minimum effective effort, it builds trust with yourself. That trust then can reduce the overwhelm that you feel. And then if you have reduced overwhelm, then you're actually able to follow through. And then suddenly that consistency that you were struggling with, it doesn't feel like it's a fight. It starts to come out more naturally. So a good example of this, I'll use me for an example, is I think I talked about it a couple episodes. My goal for my 30th birthday is to be the happiest and healthiest version of myself. And with that goal, I feel like I tried to flip the switch, right? Like I tried to be like, okay, I'm getting on track. I'm doing my meals, cardio, steps, sleep, water. Like I essentially was putting myself into like a prep for my birthday, basically. And immediately my nervous system put up some red flags. My rest started to decline, like my sleep. I have an Aura ring, and it was like my rest and recovery stats started to decrease. Even though I was moving more and eating well and exercising regularly, all of these healthy habits that like you should have in your lifestyle, because I had just put all of these rules into place and pretty much like slammed myself into this structure, my nervous system was on high alert. And so then I started to think, okay, instead of trying to flip the switch and burn the boats and go all in and X, Y, and Z, what is actually realistic for me given my current situation? Because where I am now is not where I was a few years ago when I would have had the capacity to put myself into this kind of routine and structure. Because currently, I don't have that capacity. I don't have that bandwidth. Time management is incredibly important right now. Like I have to plan each day and put everything into my calendar and be very meticulous with my time, because if I'm not, then things fall through the cracks. But I also realize some of the things I put on my calendar are not priority. Like there are certain things that can just wait till the weekend. And I think for me, learning what is the minimum effective effort needed, what is the smallest action that I could take today that still moves the needle forward? That's what I started asking myself. And it's like, okay, well, I know that like the water portion, the exercise portion, like those are really easy. Like I drink a lot of water and I like to exercise. So those are cool. The diet portion, how much time do I have to dedicate to meal prep? Am I okay eating the same meals every single day? And it's like, yeah, I am. So cool. What I can do is I can give myself macros. I'll do meal preps on Sundays. And during the week, if I need to be flexible with my diet, I can be, but I at least will be prepared enough to have meals to grab and go and know that I can hit my macros day by day. And then with cardio, I was like, well, I would rather prioritize my strength training over my cardio right now. So, what is the minimum amount of cardio that I need to start to get the ball rolling? And the reality is, I don't really need any cardio right now. I just increased my steps. So, essentially, what I'm getting at is I took away some of these hard and fast rules that I tried to put in place for myself. And by giving myself that room to breathe, but still going on a routine, I was able to take small amounts of action that moved the needle forward for me. And it's not impressive. It's not like I'm doing 30 minutes of cardio on the stairs every day. Like, yeah, that would be impressive, but who is that actually serving? Not me. And who actually cares? Like, if I posted on my story every day, like doing my 30 minutes of stairs, like at that point, it's performative. It's not for me, it's for my Instagram. So, what small amount of action can you take on a daily basis to get you closer to your goal, but not overwhelm your system? Not overwhelm yourself to the point where you can't take any action, because that is where we start to see issues with the consistency. So, really, if you've been calling yourself lazy, inconsistent, unmotivated, I really just want you to consider a different explanation. What if you're not broken? What if you're just overstimulated? And what if the solution is not harder, stricter, more discipline, more willpower? What if it's actually fewer inputs? What if it's taking some things away, subtracting, and making it so that you can stack up the consistent wins? If you feel like this has resonated, like that's not an accident. If you're hearing this, simplicity is part of your solution, is what you need. And I really just wanted to talk about this in particular around the new year, because I want to give you the permission to slow down and prioritize yourself instead of trying to push harder, instead of trying to go, 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 go all the time. And I think the messaging around the new year is very much like, reflect on last year, what didn't work, what worked, and let's move forward into 2026 and just go, go, go. And I think that there's a time and a place for that. And it can be very useful and definitely, reflect. But there's also a time when, or there's also this opportunity in this new year to take a step back and ask yourself, what can I subtract from my life that doesn't take away from the overall goals that I'm pursuing? And I'm trying to think of like a good example, but I recently had a conversation with one of my athletes, and she said in the new year, she wanted to not drink any more alcohol. She wanted to have like less gossip and less talking about things that are outside of her control with other people. And I thought that those were really great goals, because instead of setting goals of, like I want to push myself harder and I want to see what I can do, and I'm not, I'm restricting myself from all of these things. She just named two very doable, tangible goals that not only are going to help her in her fitness journey, but are going to help her long term in reaching the version of herself that she wants to be. So we were able to create a plan for 2026 that is going to support her goals, that doesn't involve pushing harder, that doesn't involve adding more rules, more restriction, like more nervous system dysregulation. Now she has the permission to slow down. And essentially, this is the lens that I bring into my coaching work. I'm not going to be the person that tells you you don't want it bad enough, you need more effort, more pressure, because you guys work hard enough already. You're working hard. If you hire a coach and you want to improve your health, I know that you want to work hard. So it doesn't come down to more work, more pressure, more effort, but it comes down to prioritizing what actually takes your energy and your attention. Like when you have fewer inputs, then there's less noise for you to listen to. The clarity that you're seeking, it doesn't come from adding more. It comes from creating that space. So, all in all, I really just want you guys to know, like, it's not that you are lazy. You're just overstimulated. There's just too much going on, too much input. And if there is one thing that you could subtract from your day that takes some of that decision, like analysis paralysis away, that will make such a big difference in the long term. So If you guys enjoyed this episode, again, it really helps me a lot if you like, share, subscribe, send it to a friend, send to somebody that you think might benefit from hearing this, and let me know what you guys do want to hear in the new year. As always, thank you guys so much for being here. It means the world that I get to sit here and chat with y'all week after week. So until the next episode, stay relentless.